Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and welcome back to Sentinel Reviews. Doctor Who, Series 15 slash Season 2 continues with episode 5. Are we on now? One second, the Robot Revolution, Lux, The Well, last week's episode, whose name is escaping me? Yeah, episode 5. The Story and the Engine. Obviously, in an 8-episode season, we are now passing the halfway point. The Story and the Engine was written by, I wrote his name down, apologies, I'm probably going to butcher it, Ainua Elams. As always, there is a blanket spoiler warning in place because I do these unscripted and may decide to talk about spoilers. If you do not wish to be spoiled, Doctor Who streams in the UK on BBC iPlayer and streams internationally on Disney+. And, thus far, I think 15 episodes in, 8 episodes from the first season. The Church on Ruby Road makes 9, Joy to the World makes 10, and then these first 5 episodes. I think the Gatwa era, and thus RTD2, finally has its first true masterpiece. This episode is spectacular. And it's also nice, too, because this episode does feel very revitalizing. The previous episodes were all written by by writers who have written for Doctor Who before. Russell T Davies, Stephen Moffat, Pete McTeague. Ainua Elams with this story brings a new voice to the show. I'd like to see him come back and see what he can do, but to my understanding, this may be a sort of a unique occurrence. I don't know how to explain it. This might just be a one-off. Like, back during the Moffat era, we had... What is his name now? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name. Shoot, I should have prepped for this in making this comparison, but... can you tell I'm vamping until I try to remember the name? But, the guy who wrote Love Actually and Notting Hill and created Blackadder and The Vicar of Dibley, how he wrote Vincent and the Doctor. That episode had such a unique voice to it compared to the rest of the episodes under Moffat. Similarly, even going back to Davies' first era, Ainua Elams' voice in this episode brings such a unique experience to Doctor Who, something so unlike the rest of Russell's era. Either of them. And it's so refreshing. Like, up until this point, too, my favorite Ncuti Gatwa episode had still been The Devil's Cord. This episode might have finally just replaced it. Because also, this episode just scratches a narrative itch that I really love, This is an episode, this is a narrative that is all about storytelling. It's about the importance of storytelling. It's about how pivotal storytellers are to life. And I have just always loved narratives like that. Stories like very poorly aged example because the creator is a monster, The Sandman, or movies like Big Fish, or even musicals like Children of Eden or Once on This Island. If you tell a story about why we need storytelling, about why we tell stories, you're already kind of going in with a loaded hand. I'm probably gonna love what you're doing. There's also always the risk of not doing it good, but that's another story because this episode does it phenomenally. There are things I'm trying to avoid in talking about this episode simply because I can't comment on them. The bulk of this episode takes place in Lagos. Looking at it on a map, I always called it Lagos, but Lagos, Nigeria. The Doctor goes to visit one of his old friends in a barber shop and only to find that there is much more going on, which I'll get into in a moment. And just the representation here, the culture, the community being presented, I just can't comment on it. I know nothing about that community. I can't speak from experience. So, if what I saw is accurate, I love this presentation. I love being exposed to a culture I was previously unfamiliar with. But again, I can't comment on what was being depicted. So, as I was saying, I only really have 2 issues with this episode. One, not a lot of Belinda. Like, the Doctor leaves her behind, or more accurately, she lets the Doctor go see his friends and catch up. And then, she doesn't really show up until the 3rd act, minus a story the Doctor tells. There's just not a lot of her, and I can kind of understand that. But yeah, it's just down to me really liking Belinda. I just wish we had more of her. And the other thing, I wish this episode was a 2-parter. Like, and when I say that, I don't mean like some other episodes where ideas might feel rushed or half-formed, and a second episode expanding that into a 2-part episode might help the episode breathe or improve its placing or flesh out the plot. I just wanted this to be a 2-parter because I just wanted more of it. But anyway, yeah, the Doctor is going to visit his friend Omo, and only to find that his barbershop is under new management, and there seems to be something mysterious going on. The new barber has several patrons trapped here in the barbershop, and he has them tell a story for presumably nefarious reasons. There are 3, potentially 4 performances I want to highlight in this story. First of all, is Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor. I really, again, just what I'm saying, because Davies writes and creates very energetic doctors, very hyperactive doctors. So, and really, like Eccleston, when Gatwa gets the chance to slow down, that's where I really think he gets to excel. So, stories like Boom or The Well, even though The Well I'm kind of falling out of love with. I don't hate it. I don't dislike it. I don't suddenly think it's bad. It's just, I like it less than I did when I watched it. But yeah, it's just a good example of what I mean about Gatwa slowing down. So here we get that with his Doctor is really good. And again, there's going to be a lot of names here I think I'm going to botch, so apologies again. Sewell Remy as Omo, I really like. He opens the episode. I love his camaraderie with Gatwa. They have great performance, chemistry. Michelle Asante as Abina is also really good. I do have some issues with her heel turn in the 3rd act. But again, that's probably one of the issues of the time constraints. It's one of the points where I think, you could have fleshed this out and built it up a little more. And the show stealer of this episode, and a name I'm really going to butcher, excuse me, Arion Bakari as the barber. Like, I do think he gives the best performance of the episode. He has this intensity to him and just this pain. Like, yes, he is doing something malicious, but you can feel the pain behind his motivations. Like, you can feel that he is motivated by hurt, and which really rings true to Belinda's statement here: hurt people. But unlike some other episodes where, the villain may claim he's motivated by pain, their actions can really just have a tendency to come off as malicious, probably too malicious. Here, you can really feel the pain of what he's doing. Like, he feels cheated. He wants to be recognized for his work as a storyteller. It's not enough for him that the story lives on. He wants to be recognized for it. And I do think that, I like his ending here. Just how once his plan fails, he realizes he has nothing. And Omo gives him something. He lets him run the barbershop, even though he feels he doesn't deserve it. It's a very earnest, very true performance. Well, there are some now that I think about it, there are some small things about this episode I don't like. I don't like the Fugitive Doctor's cameo here. Abina is the daughter of the god Anansi, and there is this story about how Anansi put her up as the prize of a bet, and the Doctor won. But then, when the time came, the Doctor didn't take her with him. And it's revealed in this cameo that it was the fugitive Doctor that was responsible for that incident. I don't like that just for... It kind of hollows out, it kind of ruins the mystique of the Doctor. Throughout Doctor Who, there have been these instances where the Doctor has had this mysterious event constantly referenced in their past or future. Some notable examples are the Curse of Fenric. The Seventh Doctor says he's been facing Fenric for a very long time. Was it always as the Seventh Doctor? Was it in a prior incarnation? We don't know. It never gets elaborated on. Another Seventh Doctor example, Battlefield. An incarnation in the Doctor's future will become the Merlin of King Arthur myths. And again, what Doctor it is, and that one has the advantage of it being a future incarnation of the Doctor, is never elaborated on, and to my knowledge, has never been elaborated on. So that's why I don't like the Fugitive Doctor cameo, because it kind of takes away from the mystique of the Doctor. Like, they could have just said that, there was this relationship between Abina and the Doctor. Abina, now that I'm thinking about it. And then never revealed which Doctor it was. I think that would have worked better. I love the visuals of this episode, especially the way the stories get told. And until they reach a point where, with the Doctor and the Barber, where it's just flashbacks, essentially. But I do love the artistic representation, like Omo's story about when he first met the Doctor, or I forget what character it was. They told a story about Yo-Yo Ma and his experiences traveling and with music and trying to learn a song. And just, but like the fluid nature of storytelling, if it's not recorded, the song, if it's not recorded, is different every time you play it. Like the stories that are being told here in this narrative about storytelling are just wonderfully done. I have to admit for a moment, now I'm just going to talk about series arc stuff, because I'm just praising this episode, so now I'm going to speculate for a bit. I don't normally speculate because I'm always wrong. And I'm fine with that. I want to be well heard on that. I feel like speculation in a show like Doctor Who, or anything else really, is a very dangerous road to go down, because then you run the risk, when you get the reveal of whatever it is, you run the risk of not liking the episode because it's a bad episode or because it's a poorly done reveal. You run the risk of not liking it because it's not what you speculated it was going to be. So that's why I don't like speculation. But sometimes I do it, and I always try to divorce myself from the speculation, like saying, if this is not what it turns out to be, I'll be fine with that. And I am, usually. Like, last season is a good example. When we got the reveal that the one who waits was Sutek, given kind of the little hints peppered throughout leading up to Empire of Death, that there was some weird tie between him and Ruby, I speculated that the reveal, going to Egyptian mythology, was that Ruby's mother was going to be Sutek's sister in Egyptian mythology, the goddess Isis. That wasn't the case, and I'm glad it wasn't. That's just leading up to what the reveal was. That's what I speculated. And we have similar things here. Before I share my own speculation, I want to share one of my friends' speculation and some other ideas. So initially, when the storyteller kind of quote-unquote revealed himself, that he was all these kind of story-themed gods throughout history, like Anansi or Saga in Norse mythology, or Bastet, and so on and so on. I thought this was going to be another Pantheon episode. Like, during that scene, and for a little bit, I was waiting for the arpeggio, ha 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 ha. But that's not what happened here. Like, I thought we were getting a Pantheon episode with a god of stories. But that's not what happened here, and I'm fine with that. That's fine. That's going to tie into my speculation here in a second. But also, like, So first I'm going to share my friend Brian's speculation here, because Davies' finales tend to build up to a reveal. Davies' finales are usually how he brings back elements of classic Who back into the new show. Not all the time, but usually. So Series 1 was kind of weird because there was an episode before that leading up to that. Series 1, the finale was about the Daleks. Series 2, it was the Cybermen. Series 3, it was the Master. Series 4, it was Davros. And then, skip, of course. And then we had Series 14, which was Sutek. And even the 60th a little bit with the Toymaker. So, in that regard, given some of the hints we've gotten, we got the episode listing, and one of the finale episodes is called The Reality War. Last week why can I not remember that episode's name? Last week, sorry, I'm still hung up on the fact that I can't remember the name. Last week, after that chewing out that the doctor gave him, Conrad very specifically told the doctor, I deny your reality. And now we have this episode, The Story in the Engine, all about storytelling. My friend Brian speculates that we are building up to the Land of Fiction. The Land of Fiction was the basis of the second Doctor story, The Mind Robber, where the second Doctor and his companions at the time, Jamie and Victoria, find themselves in the Land of Fiction, where the rules of reality don't exist. And if it exists as a story, it happens in the Land of Fiction. The Doctor regularly crosses paths with Lemuel Gulliver from Gulliver's Travels. They meet Medusa, and so on and so forth. So, again, it seems like we're building up, and I kind of agree with my friend Brian. It seems like we're building up to the Land of Fiction, which would be cool to see, because The Mind Robber is a fantastic story, first of all, and it would be interesting to see what could happen there, because after The Mind Robber, we've only ever gotten the Land of Fiction in the expanded universe, probably for the best. But now that leads into my thing. Up until, of course, the reveal where the barber was revealed not to be this god of stories. He was just a storyteller who felt cheated because he was never recognized for his stories. My speculation is now at this point that we have already met the god of stories. Especially if it's true that we are building up to the Land of Fiction. Think about it. Basically, since the Gatwa era began with the Church on Ruby Road, who has broken the fourth wall repeatedly and talked to the audience like a narrator telling a story? Or more specifically, if this does turn out to be true, the clue was right there in the name. Throughout all of history, what does every civilization, every culture, every religion, every mythology have in common? They all have a flood story. So that's the theory I'm working on right now. Mrs. Flood is the god of stories. And I really have nothing to go off of beyond that. Like I said, I am open to being wrong or my own speculation being proven false. That's just what I think. But yeah, The Story in the Engine is an absolute masterpiece. Gatwa delivers a stellar performance. We have an amazing guest cast who also similarly delivers phenomenal performances. This is just a narrative that I love, the importance of storytelling. And, this new writer to Doctor Who, I knew alums, just brings a very refreshing voice to a series under a showrunner whose style I'm not a fan of and is kind of stale. But those are just my thoughts. Have you seen The Story in the Engine? What are yours? Start a conversation in the comments below. And remember to like, comment, subscribe, Click the bell next to subscribe to get notifications when I upload, and in the description box below, you'll find the link to my Bluesky where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and I'll see you guys next time.